कॉन्फिडेंस गोज डाउन, रिसीडिंग हेयर लाइन, फिर वहां से ट्रिगर होता है कि नहीं यार अब गंजा तो हो गया तो चलो पैसे बना लेता हूँ। उसके बाद आता है कि अच्छा इससे ना इरेक्टाइल डिसफंक्शन भी हो सकता है आपको, फिर वो भी डर लगता है कि यार मैनहुड भी चले जाएगा अब तो।
When a person starts to lose hair, they feel out of control. Many people have balding because of insulin resistance. They may be fat, they may be dark, and then they're losing hair, especially from the back of the head. A deficiency in the body, which is amplifying. कि parents को तो 30-35 पे जाके हुआ है, and the kids are getting it 25.
What common pitfalls do you see that people don't follow?
The person is unable to sleep in the night, even if they intend to sleep on time. Usually there is some trauma sitting there.
लड़के स्पेशली उनको समझ भी नहीं आता कि ऐसी कोई चीज है जो उन्हें इन्फ्लुएंस कर रही है इतनी स्ट्रांगली, एंड दे बिलीव दैट इट इज पार्ट ऑफ देयर नेचर और पर्सनालिटी, मैं तो ऐसा ही हूँ।
The moment you move to that, the purpose becomes greater and the universe is there to help you and guide you. Nobody can be always successful, and if they are successful for a certain time, they are experiencing some other form of failure.
ये गट प्रॉब्लम्स कहाँ पे रिफ्लेक्ट होती है इन टर्म्स ऑफ सिम्टम्स?
Ayurveda has always talked about it.
Hi, I'm Rahul, founder of BoxFit. I'm on my own journey to become limitless, where I explore health and wellness beyond training and nutrition. There are a lot of other factors that determine our health and wellness. And in my first episode with Dr. Mankul Goyal, we discussed some of those topics, including spirituality, gut health, supplementation, and overall well-being. The episode starts in 3, 2, 1. Yeah, so Dr. Mankul, I have so many questions for you. I'm starting my own journey from becoming limitless, I like to call it. And obviously I had a surgery a few months back, and I probably hit rock bottom when it comes to fitness, both mental and physical. And you've been like an instrumental part. You came in at the right time, or I found you at the right time. And you have helped me navigate and identify problems that was not just plaguing me for the last 6 months, but was plaguing me probably for years or decades in some cases. And I was able to identify the problem, and we are working on it now. So my first question would be कि बहुत सारे लोग जैसे हमारे BoxFit में बहुत सारे कस्टमर्स आते हैं, they are looking for health, they're improving their health, their wellness, sleep routine fix करना चाहते हैं, they want to lose weight, they want to get muscular, all of this. Training, nutrition अपनी जगह पे है, but what common pitfalls do you see that people don't follow? I mean, training और nutrition तो follow कर लेते हैं up to some extent, but क्या चीज़ें missing है when it comes to overall well-being, and which should reflect in maybe weight loss, maybe थोड़ा सा energy more, थोड़ा सा muscle ज़्यादा increase हो गया, तो क्या चीज़ें कर सकते हैं लोग?
Right, I think that's a beautiful question, Rahul, and I'll at the outset congratulate you, because what you've taken up as a purpose is actually very meaningful. Because there is something we refer to as patients as a gym consciousness these days, and gym consciousness has become, it's a very full of ambition, and it has become a space where everybody's trying to pump more muscle, and they want to get a thicker and a more well-built body, and in process sometimes they're losing the balance of health. And I'm glad that you can see that there is something beyond the physical, looking very handsome or looking very fit, and which one can do by physical exercises and by to some degree modulating one's nutrition. But there's something more to it. And that something more to it can be understood by how science, or as from a yogic perspective, from an Indian perspective, Eastern medicine, and from a Western medicine perspective, the way of looking human beings has changed. And then I think we can understand the pitfalls better. Because the way of looking at human beings can be seen as either we can see ourselves as this matter, this physical body sitting here, and then there is a brain in it which thinks. And so if I ask you, who are you and where are you, and if you say I'm Rahul, this body, and I'm sitting here, then pretty much we are identified that I'm this matter.
Right? I'm this name, I'm this
name,
body,
and this body. And just to take another corollary right next to it, if I happen to push you right now, then there is, or I happen to slap you right now, then there is an automatic response that okay, I need to either fight back, or or somebody will run away, or so something like that. But the truth is that we are a continuum of matter, energy, and information. And the first step towards it was taken in the modern science by Einstein when he talked about E equal to mc square, that matter and energy are interconvertible. Once that is clear, that we can see ourselves as physical matter or also as a ball of energy, then it is also understood now that energy carries information. Through this energy, it is going to reach out to many people with a lot of information. So everywhere through internet, that needs not be proven that energy can carry information. So actually, you can look at human beings as a continuum of matter, energy, and information. And this is something that yogic sciences have known for long. And they put it in human beings being seen as 5-layered beings. And the first layer being the Annamaya Kosha, or the physical body, which the gym is most concerned about. The Anna refers to nutrition. So Annamaya Kosha is the physical body. The energy body is referred to as the Pranamaya Kosha. We can understand Pranamaya Kosha as, we can relate to it by, let's say, if you get angry, you have a gush of energy in your head. Or you're very hungry and you have gurgles in your tummy. So that's the dynamic force which gives matter, infuses matter. That's the difference between this glass here and prana being infused to it and becomes mobile. Right? So there is the energy body, and then there is the mental body, which is full of the information and the belief systems, the thoughts, emotions, everything. Right? So this understanding really helps. Although the yogic sciences go one step further in defining the Vijnanamaya Kosha and the Anandamaya Kosha, the bliss body and the Vijnanamaya Kosha, which may delve into later. But for now, coming back to the context of the pitfalls, if we look at ourselves as these three bodies, very often what happens in the gym is that in trying to bulk up, then the balance is lost to the energy body and the mental body. We forget that they need to be taken along in the process. Usually what happens, some of the common pitfalls that we have seen is, one is going excess on protein. And protein itself can be inflammatory in nature for the body. You may bulk up and you may gain muscle, but that inflammation will then turn into, depending on what is the weakness of the person, an autoimmune disease or hair thinning or acne or heart disease. So a lot of these things can happen, and we don't need to go too far. We know that how many marathon runners these days get heart attacks, and so many different things happen. So excess protein can be an issue. Excess workout without enough relaxation time can be an issue. And then, of course, the timings is another pitfall. That these days, what we're seeing is that it's become a culture that, okay, I finished my work at 7:30, 8. Now I hit the gym. So people are hitting the gym at 8 to 10. Then they're coming back and having a meal after that. And then they're sleeping at, let's say, 1 or 2. What's happening is that from the energetic perspective, we look at that we are this energy body. We are constantly interacting with the energy body of the earth and the sun, and we are kind of in a rhythm with it, which can actually be understood through science by circadian rhythm. So these two energies need to be aligned, and according to this, the peak hours for healing of the body are 10 to 2 in the night. At night. So we need to be sleeping at that time and unwinding between 7 to 10. And the best time to actually grow yourself or work out is in the mornings, between 6 to 10. So this is another pitfall that's emerging. That's people not respecting the nature's rhythm and working out at night. I usually, with due respect to both Salman Khan and Akshay Kumar, I give a very contemporary example to patients that there is one guy, I don't want to comment or disrespectful to Salman Khan, but there's one guy called Akshay Kumar who has always followed this, waking up early. He doesn't look very bulked up, but he's very healthy. So he is waking up early, he's doing exercises at this age also. And another good thing obviously is spreading very good karma. He is doing a lot for people. So I tell people that see whom you want to even have as a role model.
Yeah.
Do you want to bulk up or you want to be fit, agile, and at this age spreading the good word all across the world?
Yeah. Yeah. So his focus is not just on looking good. He's actually he's becoming functional at a older age also. He was functional when he was young, and when he's older now, he's functional, and the agility, everything is the type of body that you can see. So you mentioned the restful period between 10 to 2, right? Like most of the people I know miss that thing. How important is sleep in overall scheme of things? Not just physical or losing weight and maybe gaining a little bit of muscle or looking good or whatever, but in terms of overall well-being, mental health, etc., etc. So sleep कितना important है? Because लोग 70-30 बोल के रुक जाते हैं कि 70% न्यूट्रिशन है, 30% वर्कआउट है, बट बाकी भी मेरे एक्सपीरियंस में जैसे जैसे मेरे को ज़्यादा एक्सपीरियंस आ रहा है, आई एम रियलाइजिंग कि और भी बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं जो सब मिस कर रहे हैं. तो अकॉर्डिंग टू योर एक्सपीरियंस, based on people, all the patients you have seen, etc., how much is sleep a factor? And उसके लिए क्या बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस हैं जो लोग कर सकते हैं? क्योंकि आई हैव ऑल्सो स्ट्रगल्ड विद स्लीप अ लॉट, क्योंकि जैसे आज सुबह हमारा ये पॉडकास्ट है एंड कल रात को मुझे स्लीप में प्रॉब्लम हो रही थी, राइट? तो दिस इज समथिंग आई हैव ऑल्सो स्ट्रगल्ड अ लॉट फॉर अ वेरी वेरी लॉन्ग टाइम, एंड मेरा पूरा दिन का रूटीन जाता है टू स्लीप ऑन टाइम. Everything I do is to make sure that I sleep on time. All my decisions are taken during the day, meetings, everything, so that I can sleep fully and sleep on time. So according to you, what advice would you give me for healthy, restful sleep ke liye?
Right. So for starters, again, I'm so happy that, you are giving so much value to your sleep, and valuing that in a way is also valuing the most soulful element in you. Because sleep is, even if we do not do yoga or meditation, sleep is that time when you actually connect and rejuvenate.
Yeah.
So let's look at it from all the three perspectives, from the Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha and Manomaya Kosha perspective. For the physical body, the day is like a catabolic phase where we break down. And night is the time for it to rejuvenate itself. How do we know it? The peak of growth hormone, peak of melatonin, both happens between 10 to 2 in the night or 11 to 3 in deep sleep in absolute dark.
Yeah.
So anybody who is looking to live or have a physical body which is in balance, you're breaking down and then you're rejuvenate that part which is broken down, then sleep is quite essential in the physical. For the energy body, we are constantly being bombarded with emotions and information and so many things. I would right now say to emotions and different forms of energies through the day. And night is the time for the body to, in a way, withdraw from those energies and merge with their supreme aspect, which is an infinite source of energy, and transform all those energies. You cannot solve those energies, but you can transform those energies. Like fire is a transformative element. So that is an opportunity for it to be transformed. So that time is golden. If you do not feel transformed, you feel not, you feel groggy through the day. If you've not had that. If we talk about the mind, it's been talked about so much that if you need good focus, if you need to, even for memory, like, people read, students who are reading or doing a lot of memorizing, you need to sleep in order to put everything together and process it well and put it at the right place. So even for the mind, it is absolutely essential to sleep. Now here the common myth that arises is that the number of hours matter. So usually people are talking about 8 hours is good enough. But I invite you to experiment with yourself that it is not so much the timing, it is the not so much the number of hours, but the timing of sleep which matters the most. So try sleeping at 1 o'clock and try sleeping for 10 hours and see what happens to you. And try sleeping at 9 or 10 and wake up at, let's say, 4, even in 7 hours, and see what happens to you. Usually the experience for people is they are more fresh and they feel more rejuvenated even with 7 hours of sleep. If they sleep on 9 or 10. Whereas no matter how many hours you sleep after 1 o'clock, you feel tired and groggy and you're very lazy and you need a cup of coffee or something really to wake you up. So that's one thing, which is the timing of the sleep, which you can focus on. Then what you talk about, the feeling, and there's, I quote here, a very nice system of medicine called anthroposophy from Germany, which
Anthroposophy.
Okay. Which puts sleep in a very different way. It puts sleep as cousin of death.
Okay.
Right. So again, it's a spiritual system. So I'm going to talk about things, another point of view of looking at things. So from a spiritual perspective, your soul, you die off, the body dies off, and you merge with the divine, and then you come back and you take a rebirth. And when you, in a physical way, when you sleep, then you kind of, the soul withdraws from the body and merges with the divine, withdraws completely, and then refreshes itself, recharges itself, and is kind of reborn. So it's a cousin of death. So when you say that I have a podcast today and I could not sleep properly, it's because we could not withdraw properly. There was something important for us, and our energy body was still entangled with it, and we was really attached to the outcome, and it could not fully disentangle, and then in process one could not fully be there in order to be reborn.
So doctor, अब तो इसका solution क्या है कि जैसे so I understood what is the reason for this, or what might be the reason for this, but what actionable step can I take, let's say from today onwards or tonight onwards, to fix this part which I've been struggling for the last 20-25 years?
Right. So again, as we discussed, that one gets entangled with the world and what we do. So journaling is a simple way which anybody from any context of life can make use of. Because journaling is a process where you kind of write down all that has happened through the day. And just acknowledging what all that you felt in that moment, or about the future. All the worries, as they say, that, there's a very nice line that one of my teachers of homeopathy, so he was 40 and he was very unsuccessful in life and he was about to commit suicide. So he thought, let me write a suicide note. So he started writing, and he started enjoying writing that suicide note. And he kept writing 5 pages, 7 pages, 9 pages. And at the end of it, he felt very light. And then he put those pages, folded them and put it in his pocket. Now he said that now all my problems are in my pocket. So he felt very good. So this is a very simple example. Even if it's the most negative things, if we just let it out on a piece of paper, we've put that pranic energy and that mental force out there. We've expressed it. We've acknowledged it. Half of it is dissipated there. And then it is much easier for the system to withdraw. Of course, in very simple terms, one would not like to sleep with all negative stuff. So one can end with gratitude. One can start with a bit of gratitude. One can end with a bit of gratitude. So that becomes into a simple encapsulated process where, let's say, you say, I thank the universe for all that happened today. And you may, usually we talk about thanking 4 things. So one is thanking the divine or universe, whatever force you believe in, and thanking yourself, and then thanking all the groups you are part of. Let's say you are part of different communities, your own ancestors, families, educational groups, whichever communities, friends, family. So you thank them and thank your life situation, whichever situation you find yourself in, whether it is challenging for you or it is very pleasurable for you. In either scenario, being grateful to the situations because they are here to help you grow. So you can start with this gratitude, then write down all the challenges or problems or whatever comes to you. And the best way to do it is go from night backwards. From that moment itself, retrace back to the moment you woke up in the morning.
So writing everything down in reverse.
Yes, exactly. And when you do that in reverse, this pranic disentanglement happens to the best. So when you do that, and then you can end with gratitude, maybe for very simple things. You have food, you have water, you have air, you have a house to live in.
Yeah.
So you can end with that to really humble yourself.
Yeah.
And then you see that night how well will you sleep.
Yeah.
So that's one simple way one can disentangle. But usually, if a person is unable to sleep in the night, even if they intend to sleep on time, they have everything else taken care of. For example, we'll talk about the lights and everything.
Yeah.
And they are alone, they are quiet, they have unwinded. Still, they are not able to sleep. Usually, there is some trauma sitting there in the subconscious mind. Some of them will fight it. They will make themselves completely numb by watching something endlessly. Or they will,
which is what most people do.
Most people do. Or they will take a sleeping pill, or they'll drink.
Yeah.
But it's basically when you are about to sleep, that subconscious mind of the Manomaya Kosha is now starting to, because normally our brain waves are in alpha and beta.
Yeah.
And when you're about to sleep, you're getting into dream state. So you have access to your subconscious mind. All the memories from childhood till now, they start to be opening up. And if there's trauma sitting there, you don't want to experience it. So you tend to fight sleep. So then it is also about long-term work with somebody who can help you heal that trauma.
Yeah. So what is the first step for that? Because that is a very interesting point that you raised, because a lot of people who are struggling with addiction, different forms of addiction, say substance abuse ho, alcoholism ho, ya fir social media hi ho, ya food ho. So they depend on certain things to rely on.
Yeah.
And usually they crop up their head after probably 7, after the work day is over. And uske 7 se 12 ke beech mein, a lot of people experience that. Like, I've had issues in the past, and the people I know, etc., etc. So, वो जो trauma, first maybe पहले तो acknowledge करना, या even believe करना कि बहुत सारे लड़के especially ये उनको समझ भी नहीं आता कि ऐसी कोई चीज़ है जो उन्हें influence कर रही है इतनी strongly, and they believe that it is part of their nature or personality. मैं तो ऐसा ही हूँ, मैं तो गुस्से वाला ही आदमी हूँ, मैं तो ऐसे ही हूँ. But there might be some other force which is invisible that you are unable to see or experience for whatever reason. And so what is the first step these people should take if they're listening over here? उनके लिए first step क्या है? क्योंकि it's a very complicated and very tumultuous journey कि ना जो maybe they don't want to go to. But first step क्या होगा? If they can't take it, what are their loved ones? What are they supposed to do? Right? Because this usually ends up for some people in weight gain, and which they're unable to do because उनको लगता है कि वो calorie deficit की problem है. यार calorie deficit तो solve हो जाएगा, but problem deeper कुछ और है. It might be a symptom.
Right. So it's a very pertinent question, and I remember discussing the same point. We had a gathering about a month, 2 months back, and we were a group of doctors, and we were reflecting with a fishbowl modality. It's a way of, where 5 people sit in the center and discuss the same issue, and there are 10 people who are listening outside, and they're reflecting on the same issue. So we're discussing the same point, and some of the key things that emerged out of it is when you feel actually loved and taken care of, or when you feel heard, somebody hears you genuinely.
Yeah.
It is then, there's an opportunity to look this deeper. So if we are talking about any person, let's say you talked about, let's first talk about how can a family member or somebody next to you help you. It's about listening to them. Somebody who can genuinely hear without judging and just hearing them out fully, what they want to say. There's a saying in doctors that if you listen to a patient long enough, they will reveal their own treatment. So in a way, that's, if you just need that time to listen to the person and fully be there. When listening, it's very important that there is a part of us which feels very low or unheard of or traumatized. So listening to everyone as a shining spark of the divine, a star, looking at somebody as a star really helps them actually feel comfortable in truly expressing themselves. So actually deep listening itself is a art. So which
Very
I
rare,
feel
but-
every doctor, every therapist needs to hone as much as possible.
Yeah.
So when you see somebody as a shining star, and then you give them an opportunity of space of warmth and acknowledge who they are, then they start unloading, then they start expressing. And all that muck, if we say that their inner space, or because the healer of trauma lies within us, let's say it's like a bulb, then that bulb is actually covered up with muck of trauma, of negative emotions, a lot of things. So that when they start unloading, that muck starts to disappear.
clear up.
उसके ऊपर कपड़ा मारना शुरू हो जाता है. And then when it starts to clear up, then that starts to shine bright. And then the person is naturally guided. You don't need to tell anybody. Everybody knows. There's an inner knowing of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So it starts to naturally happen. So that's from the reference point of another person. How can they help others? When it comes to the person themselves, the starting point can be the intention of self-care.
Yeah.
Usually in our ego-centered life, we are self-centered. मेरा क्या होने वाला है, आज मुझे क्या मिलने वाला है, मैं कैसे बल्क अप करूं, मैं बॉडी कैसे बनाऊं, कितना मुझे वेट गेन करना है, कितना प्रोटीन कम करना है, कैसा दिखूंगा, कौन सा वाला कपड़ा पहनना है, आज चेस्ट को शेव करना है और बालों का ये कराना है, आज मुझे हाइड्रा फेशियल कराना है. इट्स ऑल सेल्फ सेंटर्ड.
Yeah.
राइट. इफ वी स्टार्ट थिंकिंग अबाउट कि नहीं नहीं आप ये सब छोड़ो, सेवा करो, it doesn't come, because this person is traumatized inside and is still looking for validation in this world. That person wants to shine in this world. And you are talking about कि no, अपने ऊपर से ध्यान हटाओ और बड़ी चीजों पे ध्यान लगाओ. नहीं हो पाता है. But the fact is, the moment you move from self-centeredness to self-care, when you say, hey, I accept myself, I love myself, I'm enough, I have enough, I'm doing well enough. When you start saying, I want to listen to myself, what is it that would nurture me? What is it that will heal me? How can I take care of myself? How do I even take care of this self-centeredness within me? You start moving deeper.
Yeah.
So self-care, the fact of life is, when your purpose in life is greater than yourself, जब आप अपनी छोटी सी दुनिया से बाहर आते हो, the universe starts to help you and guide you.
Yeah.
So the simplest intention one can move to is from self-centeredness to self-care.
Yeah.
The moment you move to that, the purpose becomes greater and the universe is there to help you and guide you.
Yeah.
So this is something a person can engage in. If there's a third person, deep listening, and if there's themselves, then self-care. You may do the same thing. You may go to the same gym, but the intention will be different. Moving from wanting to bulk up to self-care,
Yeah.
and the whole thing will change.
Yeah, because the intention has changed.
Intention.
So, I mean, you've made a very good point. One thing I've observed looking at a lot of young individuals, because we interview like probably hundreds of people every month who want to join our studios, etc., etc. So, one thing I've noticed is that a lot of young men in India are told कि यार तू क्या लड़की है, तू रो रहा है. The moment they start moving towards self-care, or even show an iota of action towards self-care, वहाँ पे ना they're shamed out of it. तो वहाँ पे there's this problem, like in my personal experience, I don't have any data to back it up, but women are still more inclined, are more open to the idea of this, and they understand why it is so important. But a lot of men are, उनके ऊपर इतना pressure डाल दी, even before they can open up their eyes and even understand कि कहाँ पे हूँ मैं इस दुनिया में, और मतलब even understand this world, they have this societal pressure. I don't know where it comes from, and उनके shoulder पे इतना ज़्यादा भार डाल दिया जाता है of monetary success which they didn't define for themselves, but it was told to them कि this is what success means and this is what you have to chase. If you don't chase it, then you are a failure or a loser or a this or a that. अब social media की वजह से और ज़्यादा amplify हो गया है कि पहले तो 5 लोग 6 लोग बोलते थे, अब आपको हजारों लोग बोल रहे हैं, because they are trying to prick your insecurities to drive a monetary, मतलब कि कोई मेरे से सेल खरीद लो, मेरा कोर्स खरीद लो, कुछ कर लो. So a lot of that is happening. So I mean, obviously a lot of my intention is also to help young men understand that fitness is one aspect of it, और मेंटल फिटनेस भी ज़रूरी है और आपकी फिजिकल फिटनेस में भी रिफ्लेक्ट होगा, राइट? आपकी डिसीजन मेकिंग इन टर्म्स ऑफ ईटिंग राइट, बट अगर आप इंटरनली इनसिक्योर हो या कोई चीज़ आपको पुल डाउन कर रही है तो यू विल मेक मिस्टेक्स आउटसाइड, जो आप कितना भी पढ़ाई कर लो, कितनी भी थ्योरी कर लो, वो आप कर ही नहीं पाओगे राइट एक्शन, क्योंकि अंदर से वो आपको नीचे खींचता रहेगा. देयर समथिंग इनसाइड यू व्हिच यू हैव एक्सप्लेन्ड इन अ मच बेटर वे. सो वहाँ पे क्या किया जा सकता है कि हाउ कैन समवन ओपन अप देयर माइंड टू रियलाइज कि अच्छा ये सिर्फ एम्बिशन चेंज करना या सक्सेस, मॉनिटरी सक्सेस चेंज करना इज नॉट द होल थिंग. ग्रेट इफ यू आर डूइंग इट, बट देयर इज इंटरनल development also, which at the stage I am at, I realize that is more important. The state of your mind or state of your consciousness is मेरे लिए that is the only thing that matters. Everything else is a byproduct of it. मेरे को यह लगता था पहले कि अपना मैं अगर फोकस बढ़ा दूं, अपनी एनर्जी बढ़ा दूं, तो मैं ज़्यादा बड़ी कंपनी बना सकता हूँ, ज़्यादा पैसे कमा सकता हूँ, बेटर गाड़ी ले सकता हूँ, ज़्यादा वेकेशन पे जा सकता हूँ. बट एक्चुअली एवरीथिंग दैट यू डू इज नेट वो आएगा आपके स्टेट ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस में, राइट? और स्टेट ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस को इम्प्रूव करना है. Like you have to be more forgiving, you have to be more fully healed, you have to help others, you have to be more open to different ideas, etc., etc. So some young person who's bogged down by social media and these expectations of family, etc., 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 जो उन पे डाल दिया जाता है before they are even they have their own mind. उसके लिए do you have some suggestion for them? What do you think they should do?
I think you touched upon, Rahul, and I'm so glad that person running fitness setups is talking about it, and my heart goes out to you that your first priority is elevating your own consciousness, and I really look forward to your potential in terms of reaching out to number of people, because this is exactly what we want to do. But coming back to, you touched upon two things. One is the shame of being a man and opening up and crying, and the second thing is the meaning of success. And what does society mean by success? So the shaming, for understanding, in fact, the common link between these two is an understanding of what are the common forces of expectations working on us. So usually these three forces which are working on us. The first is a force of personal needs and desires. We all have कि अच्छा मुझे खाना चाहिए, मुझे we have all kinds of physical, sexual. We have कि घर होना चाहिए, security होना चाहिए. So as a human being, you have these basic instincts inbuilt कि खाना चाहिए, security चाहिए, you want to procreate. So these are very much inbuilt and hardwired.
Yeah.
So these are the personal needs and desires which are at work in the subconscious. The second force that is at work is the force of whichever community you identify yourself with. That community's needs, standards, survival, it takes over more importance than your own, right? So if you identify with a family, then that family's survival becomes more important than you. Or if you identify with a nation, that nation's needs become more important than you.
Yeah.
So in a collective, the individual becomes subsidiary. And that is true for, I would say, 80% of human beings. Those 20% who still are driven, or let's say 10% are still driven by personal needs and desires, even in the community setting, then they become criminals. They kind of, they are so taken over by greed, lust, or these emotions, and then they kind of even go against the society.
Yeah.
So the second force is the community consciousness. The third force that would work in us is our intellect, which is kind of builds up ideals. That, okay, I want to be sincere. I want to be a giving person. I want to be, we all build up a model of perfection.
Yeah.
That this is how a human being is meant to be, and I want to live up to that standards. All three can be a source of expectations and pressure upon us. Our own personal needs, the society's needs, and our own intellectual needs. And a human being generally goes through an evolution from these three levels of expectations. First, it is the barbaric human being, a barbaric society, where you just are driven by your own thing and you don't care about anything else, to a more civil society, to then the society, kind of some individuals in the society kind of rising up and saying that, hey, I want to live up to this standard. And then, they also are in a way ready to go against the society, but in a different way. They want to live up to their ideals. But then the problem with them is they start imposing their own standards upon others. कि जिम वाला आदमी है, उसने अपने स्टैंडर्ड सेट कर लिए कि भाई इतना खाना होता है और ऐसे करना होता है, वो सामने वालों को भी देखना शुरू हो जाता है कि तुम ज्यादा खा रहे हो, तुम ये कम कर रहे हो. Because he is now starting to rise above the society standard, where the other person is saying, यार मिलने आए हैं यार, आराम से बैठ के बात करने आए हैं, ये सब क्यों सोच रहा है? Because that person is still in the society or the community consciousness. Neither of three are perfect. The highest possibility of a human being is to be driven by their divine dynamic standards, their psychic. There is a moment to moment guidance from the depths of our heart, which is available to us. And if our intellect is ready to bow to that and ask that every time or consecrate oneself to that, then there is a moment to moment answer. But that takes evolution for a human being. For now, we can acknowledge that we are humans and we are here, and these three forces are working upon me. But we always have the capacity to have a respectful disregard for them. कि ठीक है, पता चल गया कि भाई मेरे अंदर मैस्कुलिन एनर्जी भी है और फेमिनिन एनर्जी भी है, मुझे रोना भी जरूरी है, मुझे अपने इमोशंस एक्सप्रेस भी करने हैं, और ठीक है सोसाइटी में ये जो 100 मेरे दोस्त हैं इनको ऐसा नहीं लगता है. I respect them and I have still a disregard for that. I will do what is best for me. Right? So that's one way that one can overcome this shame. And also this shame doesn't have just an external aspect. Your own ideals, which are built on what you have seen since childhood, you even need to acknowledge that कि वो भी कहेंगे कि नहीं, ये सब नहीं करना है. तो उन तीनों चीजों को साइड में रख के सेल्फ केयर करना है और एक्सप्रेस करना है. The second question second thing you brought out was success. The meaning of success. So one thing we need to acknowledge is that success and failure will always be a part of life. Right? No matter how much you succeed, you will still see failure. It's a part. Nobody can be always successful. That nobody can always. And if they are successful for a certain time, they are experiencing some other form of failure. Every success has a failure within it, just like the yin and yang symbol. Yeah. Every failure has a success in it, and every success has a failure in it. So you cannot be always successful. So then why just be driven by success? Okay. Why not be driven by excellence? Why not be driven by triumphance? Triumphing is rising above success and failure, where you are able to equally endure success and failure, where you are able to equally delight in success and failure. When your seeking becomes triumph, when your seeking becomes excellence, because it's not about again being lazy कि अच्छा मुझे success failure से फर्क नहीं पड़ता, मैं जो करना है करूँगा. There has to be a seeking. The human being fulfills himself by excellence, or whatever they do it with the absolute best. So that is the excellence. So if the seeking is excellence, if the seeking is triumph, then the life is lived very differently. A simple way to understand this is that, again, coming from the yogic philosophy, at the heart chakra level or the heart level is our seeking. It starts to manifest at the Manipura or the third chakra in forms of systems. What kind of systems we create in our life. And then at the second chakra, it starts to manifest in form of those kinds of relationships. And then at the first chakra, it starts to manifest in form of identity. So let's take an example of a person who is seeking success. कि मेरे को success हो जाए, मैं इतने billions of पैसा कमा लूँ और मेरे पास ये गाड़ी हो and blah blah blah, whatever they want. Then they will start creating those systems for success. They will need to, really work hard and, run after कि पैसा कमाने के लिए क्या क्या चीजें मुझे करनी होंगी. तो वैसे वैसे वो systems अपने लिए create करना शुरू कर देगा. Then those kinds of relationships. So he will need like-minded, ambitious people who are again self-centered, who are seeking the same thing, who are willing to sometimes compromise their values because this is their first priority. So you start finding those relationships and you start self-validating yourself कि यही success है, जीवन success के लिए होता है, corporate world, right? And then you assume that identity. I am that successful corporate person. That becomes a strong part of your identity, and you fail and you crash because you just cannot take it. Hey, I've put all my life into this and now this is gone. How can I survive without it? And I'm accepted only if I'm successful. If I'm not successful, then I'm not accepted. So this becomes a seeking. Now we take a different example. Now the person is seeking excellence. The person is seeking to triumph, success and failure. The person will start building up those systems. Hey, success is not the most important thing, and everything is here to teach me. How can I create balanced systems where I pursue excellence also? जो मुझे काम करना है वो अच्छे से करना है. Yet I can maintain the balance of my life. I need time for self-care. I need time for relationships. I need time for my family. I need time for my spiritual growth, because it is that element in me which is beyond success and failure. जो physical है और जो physical है जो कि दुनिया से जुड़ा हुआ है, उस part को तो success failure pinch करेगी ही करेगी. It is part के वो जो intellect जो हमने 3 forces की बात की, उनको तो pinch करना ही करना है अगर failure आएगी. तो यही वाला part है जो उठा के खड़ा करेगा. यही वाला part है जो endure करने में मदद कर सकता है. So how do I invest into that part? So you'll take out time for meditation. So you'll create those systems in your life. And then you start seeking those relationships. You find those people around you who are also, you start going to satsangs, you start going to places and start meeting people who are interested in कि भाई हमें rat race में नहीं पड़ना है, हमें तो life को balance में जीना है. So you start
जो भी करना है वो excellence के साथ करना है.
हाँ, yet जो भी करना है excellence के साथ करना है, laziness में तमस में नहीं फंसना है. The last part is then the identity the person starts. Now, the identity of the person is no more so physical. The identity is that I am not this Rahul, this physical body sitting here in this room. I am somebody who is inhabiting this body. And then if I slap you, then Rahul has a 360-degree option of seeing that, hey, this person has slapped me right now, this body. What is ailing this person? क्या हो गया इसको डॉक्टर को एकदम से? So that person has the opportunity to act out of compassion. And that is how it frees us.
So I don't identify with the pain of the slap. कि मेरे को ही पड़ा तो I need to react in a certain way, but I need to actually take a step back because I'm not identifying with the body. I'm being the observer, and I'm looking at you. कि अच्छा क्या हुआ? What is the possible reason? And I'm responding instead of reacting.
Exactly.
So this is a very good point. And say few years back, I would very, very strongly identify with the body, right? And everything that is happening on the body and retaliate. Reaction तो बात की आता है, retaliate, right? And obviously मेरे को थोड़ा martial art भी आता था, that would help. But उस जर्नी को कि आइडेंटिफाइंग विद द बॉडी विद रियलाइजिंग और पीछे आना और रियलाइजिंग कि आप तो एक्चुअली ऑब्जर्वर हो और आपको बॉडी की जो पेन्स और अट्रैक्शंस या अटैचमेंट्स है उससे आइडेंटिफाई नहीं करना, वो जर्नी कैसे एक एनीवन सम यंगस्टर who wants to fulfill the life जहाँ पे वो सक्सेस मटेरियल सक्सेस से कंफ्यूज हो रहा है, एक्चुअली वो सेल्फ एक्चुअलाइजेशन में भी ढूंढ रहा है, तो वो कैसे पीछे आएगा, वो कैसे पीछे से देख सकेगा यार मैं तो ये बॉडी नहीं हूँ यार, ये तो एक कपड़ा पहना हुआ है मैंने, जैसे मैं कपड़े नहीं हूँ, अगर मेरे इस पे कुछ डाल दे फट जाए तो कोई बात नहीं, एक और आ जाएगा. तो वो कैसे वो पीछे कैसे जाए और कैसे आइडेंटिफाई करे कि यार वो जर्नी डिफिकल्ट है, ईजी है, समवन हु जस्ट स्टार्टिंग इट, और व्हाट इज द फर्स्ट स्टेप दे शुड टेक?
Okay, so this is again, we are moving from one step beyond self-care. So as we discussed, the first step is deep listening, being heard, and self-care. Now the next step is to actually start to take a sakshi bhav or witness. So the first bhav we were talking through self-care was sakhi bhav, or being a friend or a nurturer to ourselves. And now we are talking about how we can be sakshi or witness to ourselves. The process of witnessing is a process which involves getting to the depths of the heart. And it is about first moving out of your left brain thinking, which is constantly thinking, constantly attached to the outcome logically, moving to the right brain, which is more visuospatial. So if one closes one eyes and then they go into visualizing something or listening to a nice rhythmic thing or some music, or visualizing, let's say, for being in a forest with water flowing or on a beach, it immediately puts us out of our left brain into more of a right brain thing. The right brain has the better capacity to focus on rhythms. And in the rhythm, one can go into the rhythm of breath. As one goes into the rhythm of breath, one can visualize being in the heart and seeing the breath going in and out of the heart. And as one goes deeper and deeper into the heart, there is the space of witnessing. From where one can start initially witnessing what are the feelings in the body, what are the thoughts and emotions, what are the different things or attachments around oneself. So one can start witnessing them. This witnessing state can get deeper and deeper over a period of time. One can realize that I'm not this body, this is one working of the nature. Stand back from it. So one can stand back from it. I'm not this prana which is looking to possess or be possessed or satisfy or be dissatisfied or attracted or averse or highs or lows, wanting to be the center or wanting to be away from the periphery. These are one workings of nature in the prana. The universe is working through the prana. Stand back from it. You go deeper. And you start witnessing from there. Initially, थोड़ा सा witness करते हो, फिर दोबारा दुनिया में आ जाते हो. फिर आप दोबारा से जाते हो, फिर दोबारा आ जाते हो. Gradually, the space starts to get deeper and deeper. And as it gets deeper, one enters a space of an unshakable calm. From that unshakable calm, it's not so easy to be pulled back. And everything that's happening on the surface is being seen as a surface thing. And one is in a space of shantam, a peaceful witness. One can go one step further, that I'm not even these thoughts and a thinker, or these, we identify with the mind with a sense of, I want to be right. There's a fear of being wrong. Because if mind is identified with being right, and if you say you're wrong, then you're literally questioning the survival of the person, and the person will go any mile to prove himself right.
Yeah.
So I'm not even this thought or thinker, I'm not this right and wrong, and one can go deeper and deeper and witness from there. There are further layers. There are lots of layers to it until one reaches a space from where one just is not a silent witness, but can also become a sanctioner. Sanctioner of certain movements that or withdrawing sanction. So right now here we are sort of saying कि मुझे ये नहीं करना है, मुझे ये करना है, to being a witness, which is the very source of every movement in this body-mind complex. And one can withdraw sanction, let's say in this moment, withdraw sanction from impatience or frustration or dissatisfaction, and sanction patience, sanction peace. And suddenly the whole body-mind complex has more peace. What we refer to as intention, behind intention is sanction of the Purusha or the witness. And this body-mind is a part of nature or Prakriti.
Yeah.
So this is the process, and it can deepen to any degree. But the starting point is, as I said, first self-care and deep listening, to moving out of left brain to right brain. Anybody picking up a meditation audio where they just learn to feel soothed a little bit, visualize something, and then they come to the rhythm of breath. And then they come to the depth of the heart, and they have the capacity of opening up to witness. West has packaged it very nicely into mindfulness, which is a part of Buddhism practice. So the strength of West is to make it non-religious and open to all and neutral, which can be packaged and sent it to all across the world, which is very beautiful, and we need to respect it. So mindfulness is something anybody can learn.
Yeah. What I find very interesting and funny at the same time is that a Westerner would come to India, they would learn yoga, or they would learn the meditation techniques of Buddhism. Then they would go to America, launch an app. Then Indians would use that app to learn yoga and meditation of Buddhism, jo hamara hi hai.
Right.
So this is something which is on a lighter note, like I find very interesting. So talking of West and taking practices from there, so there is this new guy in town, right, who has recently come, who has obviously credit to him, he has given more attention towards health, increased health span, improving longevity, etc. So Brian Johnson. So he's doing some radical methods, radical approach to optimizing biomarkers, reducing age, seeing how, redefining how to look at longevity, etc., etc. I understand there are a lot of other people who are working in this space for decades now, but he has just suddenly, with his social media and his antics, really popularized the whole movement. So what is your take on it? And आपको क्या लगता है कि इस method के कोई risk, dangers, pitfalls हैं या नहीं हैं? And just your candid take on this him.
So for starters, I have just had very brief, I've read it very superficially about him. So to comment on him would be something I would like to avoid because, right now what we are all suffering from in a way is so much bombardment of media, and we read so many things or hear about things superficially, and then we start making our judgments about them. So I don't want to make any judgments of him. And in fact, I would just like to talk about the common pitfalls when people take such strategies rather than making him the center of focus. And this reminds me of this fact only, that right now, if we have to discover between whether something is true or false, in the world, there are two forces at work. There's truth, there is falsehood. If you go to the depth of anything, it will be revealed. The truth will have light at the center of it. And so आप किसी सब्जेक्ट को एक्सप्लोर करोगे, किसी से बात करोगे, कोई आपके पास सेल्समैन आया है, तो आप उसको you'll go deeper into it and you will realize कि अंदर खोखला है या उसका जो प्रोडक्ट बेच रहा है वो genuinely अच्छा है. So same way, if you go deeper into something, if you see light at the end of it, it's coming from truth. And if you see it's hollow inside, then it's falsehood, right? So we need to get to the depth of anything. And this is something, another message for people seeing social media, because it's inevitable that we will be on social media, but you can browse in two ways. One is you're reading up and accumulating a lot of superficial stuff, like on Instagram, one reel to the other, to the other, to the other, and you're accumulating a lot of superficial stuff. Or you take up one topic and go to the depth of it, browse around it. You're more likely to have a meaningful browsing through that. But coming back to your question, one of the common things that happens is that the person gets obsessed again with the Annamaya Kosha or the physical. And that becomes the center of one's identity. And if one starts from the point that I am this physical body and goes about doing this, it can reinforce this belief system that I am this body and I need to, I will invest heavily into making it the best version of itself. So in a way, it can sometimes create a consciousness trap for that person, because this is associated, it becomes associated with ambition. देखो कितने लोग, so it involves, the ambition involves the community consciousness कि देखो कितने सारे लोग मुझे देख रहे हैं, कितने सारे लोगों को मैं गाइड कर रहा हूँ, कितने सारे लोगों को मेरे थ्रू ज्ञान मिल रहा है, and so many people are appreciating it. Look, I have proven that I've defied the laws of nature and I'm so young. And then the forces of falsehood, you start to attract them, and you start developing delusions about yourself that I am, immortal. And यही जो हमारे कल्चर में इतने सारे राक्षस, महिषासुर से हर राक्षस वो इसी आइडिया से बनाए गए कि हम इमॉर्टल हैं, मेरे को कोई नहीं मार सकता है. So that kind of thing can happen to a person when they get obsessed and everything is being done to so much funds and money is being spent on how do I improve this physical body, then that can happen. Whereas, as we talked about, if the approach is triumph, that eventually this body is going to die off. So there's no point overtly investing on this. If the purpose is excellence, I will do my best to take care of this body. I'm ready to open to, but I have a greater purpose here to elevate the consciousness of humanity. Why not focus more on that, right? So it will be a different seeking, and it will lead to a different outcome. The purpose, the person's of media feeds and everything will have a different tinge to it, where even though he may be talking about the same growth factors or the same peptides or the same stuff, but there's another subtle message going out there that, hey, all this is important, but remember that your physical body is less than 1% of you. More than 99% of you is somewhere else, which is invisible. And you elevate yourself to that. So that is the common pitfall, and it can be something which can take an enormous shape, like it took for Ravana or for the Asuras. So it can take an enormous shape. So one needs to be vigilant of it as a person. And again, he may have very good intentions. I don't know. I have read very little of it. So that's all I'll say about that.
All right. So one question that, I have a lot of friends who work in Silicon Valley, and वो अपने लॉजिकल माइंड के आगे बात ही नहीं कर पाते, राइट? अगर उनको जैसे ये टॉपिक को टच भी आपने करने लगे, सडनली देयर इज अ बिग फ्रिक्शन दैट कम्स टू इट. ऑन इंटरनेट इट्स कॉल्ड द एजेंट स्मिथ प्रॉब्लम, कि आपने जैसे ही कुछ सजेस्ट किया, सडनली दे विल स्टार्ट फाइटिंग इट. जैसे मैट्रिक्स में एजेंट स्मिथ कम्स आउट ऑफ नोवेयर एंड स्टार्ट्स फाइटिंग इट. सडनली दे विल बी टेकन ओवर बाय एजेंट स्मिथ एंड दे विल स्टार्ट आर्ग्यूइंग एवरीथिंग, बिकॉज वो कॉन्सेप्ट को सुन भी नहीं पा रहे. दे आर नॉट एबल टू हियर इट ऑल्सो. सो आई लाइक टू कॉल इट साइंटिज्म, कि आप साइंस जैसा सुनना चाहते हो, साइंस जैसा होना चाहिए, बट आप ओपन माइंडेड नहीं हो जो साइंस मांगता है आपसे. तो माई क्वेश्चन इज कि you are, as a doctor, you're as close to science as one can be, and at the same time you have integrated and beautifully explained the eastern side of it, right? Which is also, in my opinion, science, but उसको थोड़ा सा for whatever reason वो देखा नहीं जाता. तो अब कोई जो इसी बकेट में फंस गया है, right? और वो इस बकेट की भी नॉलेज उसको चाहिए, क्योंकि इसके बिना तो लाइफ अच्छी नहीं जाती, बट स्ट्रगल भी कर रहा है, बट वो हर चीज साइंस में ढूंढ रहा है, लॉजिक में ढूंढ रहा है. तो वो कैसे उसको समझाया जा सकता है कि यार इंटेलेक्चुअल ब्रेन के आगे वो जो मेंटल मॉडल्स उन्होंने बनाए हुए हैं और जो लॉजिक बनाया हुआ है अपना, वो कभी कभार उसको सस्पेंड करना पड़ेगा. तोड़ो मत, बट सस्पेंड कर दो टू सी और फील दिस अदर साइड. कोई तरीका है कि जहाँ पे हम यहाँ से यहाँ तक वी कैन गिव देम अ ग्लिम्स ऑफ दैट? जैसे मेरे को तो गिर के रो पिट के मैं सीखा हूँ, बट समवन जो नहीं सीखा उनको सिखाना, मतलब उनको ऐसे एक्सप्लोर करना भी चाहिए, नहीं भी करना चाहिए, या फिर ये तरीका है कि जहाँ से वो यहाँ से इस बकेट में ग्लिम्स में जा सकते हैं?
See, basically, here 2-3 things become important, and here the property of mind comes in, and the ego in the mind comes in. It's almost like a spider within its own web of I and my point of view, which hates to be disturbed. It doesn't want to be disturbed, and it will really attack you if its point of view is disturbed. And here that fear of being wrong comes in, because suddenly the survival is questioned. So it is also partly a journey for a person. We have to respect the other person's journey, and eventually the solutions will emerge out of, there are the mirror neurons in us. If I also get caught up in that same cycle with the other person, then we are mirroring, and we are also putting ourselves down. So if we can be egoless and deep listen to that person in that moment, and at best deal with it with a powerful question, leave them with a powerful question. Deep listening is about listening to them, fully feeling, acknowledging their point of view, acknowledging what feelings are emerging in them apart from one's own, because you get entangled with them in that state. Acknowledging their state, coming to a common ground, and then asking them a powerful question is something which can actually open up their mind to some degree. And you can have a conversation with the thorough intellectual who believes in their own logic. They may still not be convinced, right? And they will find their own ways of dealing with it. And so be it.
Yeah.
You cannot, every person has a different purpose and a journey in this life, and you accept and respect that. But this is one thing, we can deal with them through spacious silence. The silence, the Mahatma Gandhi's silence, was able to do a lot with the Britishers who, with their intellectual and everything, that logic, they couldn't deal with it. So that spacious silence will make that person uncomfortable. And eventually, that powerful question will sow the seed, which will eventually sprout someday, where they're willing to now open up and feel it and explore more.
Yeah.
But the most important point of vigilance for us is, rather than teaching them, we also need to realize that we are still ourselves evolving beings,
And learning,
and we need to learn ourselves that in such situations we don't get caught up and get entangled and stay in the space of egolessness. And
Understood. You have mentioned that skin is the window to inner health.
Yep.
And for example, let's say a lot of young men, once they turn probably 25,
Right.
so they start getting male pattern baldness. Their hair gets thin, the receding hairline, etc., etc. And that really causes a lot of stress on them. और फिर वो एक cyclical effect बन जाता है, vicious cycle की stress भी maybe male pattern baldness हो सकता है, male pattern baldness आपको stress बढ़ा रही है, confidence goes down, फिर वहीं से फिर वहाँ से trigger होता है कि नहीं यार अब गंजा तो हो गया, तो चलो पैसे बना लेता हूँ, राइट? ये कुछ कॉम्पनसेट करना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि अब जैसे मेरे को अटेंशन मिलती थी वो भी नहीं मिल रही है, जो भी सबकी अपनी स्टोरी है, राइट? तो मेल पैटर्न बॉल्डनेस के लिए लाइक आर देयर एनी प्रैक्टिकल टिप्स दैट वन कैन डू? फिर दूसरा प्रॉब्लम आती है, फिर जब वो फर्स्ट टाइम मेल पैटर्न बॉल्डनेस गूगल करते हैं तो फिर सबसे पहले वो फिनेस्ट्राइड आता है वहाँ पे, फिर उसके बाद आता है कि अच्छा इससे ना इरेक्टाइल डिसफंक्शन भी हो सकता है आपको, फिर वो भी डर लगता है कि यार मैनहुड भी चले जाएगा, अब तो बाल भी गए, मैनहुड भी गया. तो इसके लिए someone who's probably 25 year first time male pattern baldness experience कर रहे हैं, what advice do you have for them, either medical, spiritual, stress related, lifestyle related? What do you think they should be doing to deal with it? Yeah.
So basically, let's first start with the mental aspect of it, then we'll come to the physical aspect. The mental aspect is basically that hair in our subconscious mind represent control over life.
Okay.
And when a person starts to lose hair, they feel out of control. The more out of control you feel, the more fear quotient goes up. The more fear quotient goes up, the more hair shed. The more hair shed, the more out of control you feel.
Yeah.
So the person can get caught up in this loop of, and especially we've had women come with a polythene full of hair and cry on our desk, that as if they're going to die, because it almost feels like you're out of control in your life. So the step one is to actually feel enough. That because then you ultimately, in that fear, you go to desperation, you start seeking desperate solutions, but in the background it's fear at work, and the fear continues to make them lose hair. And from scientific perspective, we understand that in the roots of hair there are the same adrenal hormones which are present in the adrenal gland. So the moment you get stressed, in the roots of hair, cortisol is made. Stress hormone is released. And that shortens the growth phase of the hair.
Yeah.
So people start shedding more hair. So the step one is to feel enough. I am enough. I have enough. And I'm grateful for whatever hair that are still there. How do I take care of them? Right? It puts a person again into the soulful seeking and a state, rather than ये वाला पार्ट से तो गायब हो गए हैं और जाने वाले हैं, अभी suddenly क्या करूं? So from that desperate space to a space of enoughness, gratitude and self-care is the step one. And then comes what kind of actions they can take. Usually we see hair fall or hair thinning of two kinds. One is more driven by dihydrotestosterone, DHT, which is the person would be very hairy on the body. There is a family history of balding, chala aa raha hai, mother's side or father's side say. And if we check their serum levels also, they tend to be high. So we have
serum levels of
dihydrotestosterone. Okay. Although there's a rider there, most labs don't do it properly. So you may get a false normal. And sometimes the levels may actually be normal, but they are actually it's a receptor which is more sensitive.
Okay.
So with hormones, we also follow that to treat the patient, not the report. So if the person is very hairy, even if the DHT seems normal, it is high.
So I have a doubt over here. Sorry, we'll come back to that, but I have a doubt over here. So for a layman, our assumption is that कि आपकी बॉडी में टेस्टोस्टेरोन ज्यादा है तो उसका बाय प्रोडक्ट DHT जो है वो ज्यादा है. तो एटलीस्ट टेस्टोस्टेरोन ज्यादा है तो आपकी मसल्स होनी चाहिए या बहुत एथलेटिक होनी चाहिए. बट बहुत बार ऐसा होता है कि आदमी एथलेटिक भी नहीं है, टेस्टोस्टेरोन भी ज्यादा नहीं है, बट वो बॉल्डिंग है. इज इट कनेक्टेड? ये लॉजिक ठीक है ये सोचने का, या इसमें कुछ एक्सेप्शंस हैं?
See, there are not every person who is experiencing balding is driven by dihydrotestosterone. Many people have balding because of insulin resistance.
Okay.
So they may be fat, they may be dark, and then they're losing hair, especially from the back of the head. And sometimes it's a combination of high dihydrotestosterone and insulin resistance. So there can be very different things, profiles, but generally a person who has a high DHT tends to be more stout. They have the more capacity to have muscle. If they exercise, they can grow more muscle. But even if they don't have more muscle, they're at least more stout.
Yeah.
So that is the tendency of DHT. So that there is some truth to it.
Yeah.
So, but if the person has high DHT, then if either the person accepts that, okay, this is what it is and this is my familiar tendency and I'm going to go bald eventually, or whatever pattern the family has had. For example, me, myself, I have this pattern on the side and I just accept it.
Yeah.
This is my body type and I'm going to live with it. But I also know that there's nothing beyond it. So I am also feel secure in that. But somebody who has seen that, okay, everybody in the family has had, complete hair loss. So they do want to seek answers. If they want to seek answers, DHT blockage has to be there to some degree.
Yeah.
It can be done safely with medications, whether it's finasteride, dutasteride, or local injections for dutasteride. Duly considering, is the person experiencing any side effects related to it or not?
Okay.
In my experience, anybody with a high DHT, hairy body, usually these medications are relatively safe.
Okay.
But we have to see the person, we have to see the issues.
Yeah.
The second cause commonly for hair fall, and again I said the other hormones affected are insulin resistance, prolactin, stress hormone. So those need to be addressed as well. And the foundational elements stay common: good sleep, good exercise, and a good diet.
Yeah.
So then the second part is a deficiency-driven hair fall. Some people can be very anxious or stressed or overwhelmed or not getting proper sleep, or deficient on nutrients, iron, thyroid, or B vitamins, biotin, all these kinds of things. So they need to sort that out.
Okay.
And if they sort out they become calmer, they're nutritionally well, then their hair shedding stops.
How do they identify the deficiencies?
Usually we do it through lab tests and also some clinical observations. So it's a combination of both, but they can do lab tests to see. At least you can check your thyroid and iron levels.
Okay.
Iron is different from hemoglobin. Many people will have a normal hemoglobin yet have iron deficiency.
Okay.
So that can be done. And in process, what happens is that if the moment you replete these, within 2 months or 3 months of that, the hair shedding stops.
Okay.
The other important thing to understand here is that the two things may not be mutually exclusive. They may be present together.
Like multiple problems.
The hormonal issues may be there. The DHT issue might also be there. And let's say a deficiency in the body, which is amplifying. कि parents को तो 30-35 पे जाके हुआ है and the kids are getting it 25. This is because the other aspect, the sleeping is not happening on time, the nutrition is not proper. So the things are happening faster in this generation. So we need to acknowledge both, work on both simultaneously. And then out of the intention of self-care, there has to be something built in, because it's a process of doing something every day, applying something, taking something. Because it's not something, let's say, especially the DHT driven one, which has an end point. कि अच्छा ये 6 महीने के लिए treatment किया, it's the end of it. It's an endless treatment. So if it is fear driven, you will not be able to sustain it. It's only if it is self-care and gratitude driven, will you be able to sustain it in the long run.
And is there a link between skin conditions, autoimmune disorders, and gut health? Is there a link between it? Because I think recently, like obviously doctors understand it for a long time, but जो general public है, layman है, they're recently trying to understand or beginning to understand कि अच्छा gut health बहुत important है या बहुत वो है, तो gut health या gut problems कहाँ पे reflect होती है in terms of symptoms and what can we do about it, and usually क्या problems आदमी face करता है when it comes to, like probably you also diagnosed me with some issues, but तो उसमें क्या क्या चीजें one needs to look at?
So there are 2-3 things that like Ayurveda has always talked about it कि हर problem पेट से शुरू होती है. So even autoimmune disease in a way starts from the gut. Now in the gut is housed your microbiome, large percentage of your bacteria within your system. And to put this in context, if we talk about DNA, 99% of the DNA in us is of microbes, not of our own. Our own DNA is 1%. And if you have to understand what DNA represents from the matter, energy, information context, DNA is your vibe. The DNA is like a string of a guitar, which is constantly sending out vibes. So whatever you are sending out as vibes, that is what is you're attracting in your life. So if microbes are greater than you and they're sending out more vibes than you yourself, then how important it is to take care of them. And the largest part where it is present is the gut. And so if those microbes are unhealthy, then they produce a lot of toxins. Those toxins leak from small intestine into the liver. Small intestine is the interface between your blood and your gut. And at the interface level, it's like a chalni. It's like a sieve. So all the good things are supposed to go into the blood and not so good things are going to go down the drain. But very often in today's day, there are multiple different forms of insult on that sieve, and that sieve gets broken. And then there are not so healthy microbes growing in the gut. They produce toxins. They leak into the blood, and from blood they go to the liver. So fatty liver is a very common problem. And then the liver inflamed goes to the blood heat, adds to the blood heat, and then that goes into wherever is the weak spot of the person. If that weak spot is, let's say, skin, so they can have acne, rosacea, dandruff, hair thinning, hair fall, and they can have those kinds of issues, psoriasis, white patch disease, depending on their genetic predisposition. If it's more of a hormonal issue, they will develop a hormonal issue. If their muscles are supposed to be, somebody can get fibromyalgia, कभी यहाँ दर्द हो रहा है, कभी यहाँ दर्द हो रहा है, किसी को depression हो सकता है, किसी को bipolar हो सकता है, किसी को schizophrenia हो सकता है, किसी को anxiety हो सकता है, perfectionism हो सकता है. Anything can emerge out of it, and it can be in any form of disease context that you can imagine.
These chronic illnesses that
can happen. Yeah.
And does it reflect in the inflammation when measured by the blood test? So it does reflect in that?
It can reflect in multiple different ways. Let's say, for example, nutritional status can be an indirect marker. If the iron, B vitamins are all low and persistently low, that can be a marker of it. It can reflect in inflammatory markers, CRP, allergy protein, IgE, thyroid antibodies, various different inflammatory markers being high. So it can be varied, but there would be people who have no gut issues, who have or no gut symptoms per se, no inflammatory markers high, yet the gut is involved in those cases. So sometimes it's just only experientially when you eliminate or you take care of it that you realize, oh, now I'm feeling so much better. So even these markers are, product of human intellect and science. So they're limited, and it goes beyond the whole understanding that, actually the gut is, and the basics are still to be lived, even though you may not see anything in your parameters.
Understood.
And swasthya is much bigger than just seeing reports as normal.
And यहाँ पे, like, there's this term called leaky gut. वो आजकल बहुत use होता है social media पे. Like, where does that come fall into the picture?
So it's actually what just we described is that the sieve is the small intestine, and if that sieve gets broken, it has bigger holes. Then the toxins from the gut can leak into the blood, and the blood's nutrition can be drained. So that can happen, and it happens because of either of the four things. Either there are infections in the gut, or there are food intolerances, like certain foods, let's say gluten, dairy, soya, or baker's yeast based products, which trigger inflammation in the sieve, and suddenly the sieve is burnt, and things can go in. It can happen because there are not enough digestive secretions. A person is tense, not working out, stagnated in life, and they're making stress hormones, and they themselves start breaking down the gut. So any of these factors can be at play, or all the factors can be at play: infections, food intolerances, and stress and stagnation, and in general the quality of food that the person is consuming.
Understood.
And that can lead to these kinds of issues.
Understood. And if someone suspects that they might have something like this, right? What is the first step they should do if they have to talk to a doctor? What type of doctor should they? Someone who cannot reach you, for example, who's not in Delhi. So what type of doctor should they look out for? Are there any tests they should be doing before that? Because you made me do this test, which was like eye-opening for me, the IgE or IgG test. So what is the first step they should be doing if they suspect something is not right?
Right. I think from an allopathic perspective, functional medicine, those doctors who are practicing functional medicine are more likely to help people with that, because they are more likely to acknowledge this thing, because still doctors have certain blocks towards it, that intellectual space. Or for that matter, an Ayurveda doctor or, Ayurveda doctor is also more likely to help you with that. But even some basic simple steps, as I said, the 3 key steps, basically clean up your diet and, try a gluten, dairy, soya and yeast-free diet. Even a nutritionist actually these days can do you much greater good. Sometimes I say that as a nutritionist, psychologist and a physiotherapist team can do a lot more good than a multi-speciality hospital to this world. So a nutritionist who is grounded in some basic principles, understands leaky gut, can also really help a person. They don't sometimes need to reach out to a doctor as well.
Yeah, understood. Understood. Dr. Mankul, I mean, this has been an eye-opening conversation for me, and personally, I've learned a lot. Although I've had like long conversations with you before also, and in my journey, you have come at the right time and told me कि यहाँ से left turn लेना और यहाँ से right turn लेना है. So and I can already see the results. It's been I'm on day 30 of my journey, personal journey. And I'm already seeing a lot of results in terms of my mental health, the energy I have, my sleep. Although yesterday was, because of you, it was actually stressful because I'm joking. But all my other nights have been very restful.
Restful.
Yes,
Okay.
only one night. And overall energy, I can see it, the byproduct of it in my hair, skin, etc., and energy overall. So how can anyone who's listening to you over here, although a lot of people have been asking me like all the interventions that I am doing, they want to know about that, and I've been redirecting them to you. So where can they reach you? How can they reach you? And if they want to start their own journey, what should they do?
Right. So they can reach me through Sampurnam Holistic Clinic. It's a clinic which is again built with a purpose greater than me or any of the doctors in the clinic, but it's built with the same intention that we serve people with no personal gain, and we bring together different systems. So we have a nutritionist, we have a physician, a cardiologist, a cardiac surgeon actually, who helps people with natural heart disease reversal without any surgeries. And there is psychologist, there is a healer in the clinic, Ayurveda doctor, acupuncture, homeopathy. So all the modalities are available in the clinic, and with the purpose that we all act out of as much as possible pure intention. So you can reach out to us on Sampurnam Holistic Clinic.
Yeah.
And it's in Hoskas, New Delhi. And you can also, if somebody is interested in some of the discussions around yoga and spirituality we talked about, they can reach out on the page called Yes Spirituality, YES.
Yes,
and
spirituality.
Yes Spirituality. The S is common between the yes and the spirituality.
Okay.
So there's no double S. So Yes Spirituality is a project started by Dr. Ramesh Bijlani in Sri Aurobindo Ashram, who's my teacher, my guru. He was the head of physiology in AIIMS, and then he was meant to be the director of AIIMS, but he chose something else for himself to reach out and give out the message of spirituality to people. So this is a channel where we are spreading the message on that. So Yes Spirituality is a humble project meant to again elevate the consciousness of humanity.
Yeah.
And there are 600 plus videos on that, and we welcome all to explore that channel as well. So these are two means through which people can reach out to me.
Amazing. Thank you very much. I had so many more questions, but we are unfortunately we are running out of time.
God bless you, and all the best with your initiative.
Thank you.
Thank you.